let's get into the podcast. So today we're going to start with a new segment, Game of the Week. So we review a game of the week, as simple as it sounds, and we talk about it and explain why we think it was the game of the week. So Phil, I'll start with you. Your game of the week.
So it was a tough choice. There was about four in mind that I could have gone for, but I've gone for Inter Milan and AC Milan. It finished 4-2 to Inter. And yeah, that's my game of the week.
Cam, what's your game of the week?
Well, there weren't too many games over the weekend with no Premier League, with hardly any Premier League, but there was the Milan derby, but I've gone for Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Dortmund.
I likewise have gone with Leverkusen Dortmund. We'll start by talking about that a little bit more. Dortmund basically can attack really well and can't defend at all, can they? Leverkusen exposed a lot of gaps in Dortmund's defence in that free back that they played. And yeah, scoring 4 goals. Just ruthless. 4 disallowed goals in the game. Tackles flying in left, right, centre. You got VAR involved. Emre Can's screamer. It's probably the best game in the Bundesliga this season. With that result, Leverkusen are now 5th, 2 points behind Dortmund in 3rd, who are 4 points behind Bayern in 1st. So the title race in the Bundesliga is hotting up, and it's looking really interesting at the minute, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Phil, you mentioned the Milan derby. Why that game over Leverkusen Dortmund? Because I can't see an argument for that, to be honest.
My thinking behind it is that at half-time it was 2-0 to AC Milan, which I think would have surprised anybody going into that game with the way Inter have performed this season. And then Inter came back to win 4-2, and the second half, dramatic. Ibra hit the post in the last minute of the game, which would have made it 3-3. Inter got the other end. Lukaku finishes it off. But I think it's the manner of the victory for Inter. The one in this league title, I think, is it 8 league titles Juventus have won in a row?
Yeah, I think it's 8, yeah.
And, you know, to stop that from happening, it'll take some team from a team that's dominated Serie A in the recent years. And I think there's no better occasion to do it than a Milan derby.
Do you think they'll do it? Because Juventus lost, obviously, at the weekend as well. I think they're either a point or 2 clear. Inter.
I think they stand a good chance to. Obviously, there's still quite a few games left this season, which anything could change. But I think if they can come back in that manner in the second half and score 4 goals, I think that the amount of confidence he'll take from that, yeah, I'd have them as my favourites to win. Because Juventus, they have lost quite a few games as of late. Obviously, Ronaldo's in great form, but I think the rest of the team, the next 4 goal scorers, still have all their combined goals are still less Ronaldo's. So you know, you could make an argument a bit of a one-man team this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Inter Milan are my favourites to win.
Do you think, Cam? Do you think Juventus's potential run in the Champions League, wanting to win the Champions League rather than Serie A, do you think that might play to the benefit of Inter?
I think it is one of them scenarios where they've done what they need to do in the Serie A, and it is expected of them, but they do need to go for the big one now. Similar to what Man City may have thought at the start of the season. But yeah, I think obviously buying Ronaldo was a big reasoning in going for the Champions League, and yeah, I think I think Inter Milan might just pip it, but it will be very close right till the last game.
Phil, do you think Inter will win the Europa League?
Again, it's tough, because if they're going for this league title, do you reckon they would prioritise that over Europa League? And there are still quite a few good teams in the Europa League.
Yeah, that's true.
To be honest, it might be a bit far-fetched, but I fancy Wolves to do well.
What, in the Europa League?
Just, you know, although obviously they're not a great team yet, but they're performing well in the Premier League. They can beat anybody, as we've seen.
Yeah,
I think although they played a lot of games this season, I think they stand a good chance of going. I'm not saying winning it, but I think they'll do well. Maybe get to the semi potentially, but it all depends on the run they get.
So, just to conclude that, then, do you think, Cam, do you think Inter will win the league?
Yeah, but then again, that's if they. I don't think they will prioritise or go for the Europa League as such, because it is that important to get the dominance back, end the dominance of Juventus and win that Scudetto.
Yep.
That's the main prize in Italy, isn't it? And that's what they'll go for.
Yeah, so moving on to a couple of transfer news breaking yesterday. First being Hakim Ziyech of Ajax. According to Sky Sports, an oral agreement has been agreed between Ajax and Chelsea for the signature of Ziyech. Do you think this is a good move for Ziyech, Phil?
Very good move. He's been in stunning form for Ajax in the last 3-4 years, and I think he's earned the move. And Chelsea have got themselves a serious player in the hands. He's got quite similar stats to Fernandes. Obviously, he just signed for United.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting, I think, particularly next season, to see both of them in the Premier League.
How do you think, Cam? How do you think Ziyech will fit in at Chelsea? You know, obviously the young core that they're bringing through. So how do you think Ziyech plays a part in that?
I think he will. He's a good sign. He'll fit into starting line, but I don't know if it alters potential transfer plans in the summer. Like, obviously they're still linked to Jadon Sancho, etc. But I think he will have that right wing spot probably if they don't sign anyone else. But I think he'll be a success, but nothing brilliant to take Chelsea to titles or anything.
Do you not rate Ziyech that much then?
I rate him, and he's been very good, but why, when he's had a release clause of around 27 million for the last 2 years now, why has no other big teams come in for him when it's been that low? Obviously agreed the contract in August to get rid of that release clause. So, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't think Chelsea need. I don't think they need Ziyech really, because
Not particularly, no.
you see the amount of central midfielders that and even wingers that Chelsea have got. The depth that they've got in that position is good, and obviously Ziyech probably would strengthen them. I don't think they necessarily need him, and I think it was 39 million, 40 million. I think they've agreed him for. I don't know. I think if I was Chelsea, I'd focus on this youth project that they're bringing through.
A keeper's a must need in the summer, I think.
A keeper and another striker.
Would you get a direct replacement for Kepa, or would you get, obviously Willy Caballero's going at the end of the season, would you bring in a more competitive backup, which they both fight for the number one, like Barcelona did with Ter Stegen and Sillerson?
I think, obviously, was it 72 million for Kepa?
World record fee for a
Yeah, I
goalkeeper.
think it would be. Obviously, it's hard to just get rid of a player that you spent that much on, but some of the mistakes he's made, I think he has the lowest save percentage of any goalkeeper in the Premier League, and that, for £72 million, you wouldn't expect that. So I think for anything they need to do in the summer is they need to get a direct replacement for Kepa. Yeah.
Well, we'll be speaking a lot more about Chelsea later on. We'll move on to the other breaking story from yesterday. Jadon Sancho is apparently set to leave Borussia Dortmund for Man United this summer. How far do you think this will go to help rebuilding Man United? Obviously, we asked this question when they signed Bruno Fernandes. Do you think this will help rebuild Man United, Phil? What do you think?
It would be a very good signing, but I think it's still up in the air of where he could go. I mean, there was reports about Chelsea, about Man United, and Liverpool last night. Breaking news that Liverpool, apparently Liverpool are in for him as well. So it's all up in the air where he could go. I think it's going to be the most high-profile transfer saga in the summer.
Not Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid. 'Cause I feel like that.
Or Liverpool again.
Yep, or Liverpool, yeah.
Obviously, that would be a big one as well. Mbappe, probably Real Madrid he'd go to. But I think with so many clubs Sancho could go to, whereas Mbappe's realistically only going to go to Real Madrid because they're the only club that probably will be able to pull off financially.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Jadon Sancho for me would be the biggest transfer at the window.
Cam, what do you think is the best move for Sancho? Do you think it's staying at Dortmund for another year, or do you think it may be moving back to England or even Spain?
I don't know why you'd go to. Obviously, this transfer rumour of him going to Man United came off the back of Ziyech, because obviously I think just media came up with it, didn't they? Like, oh, Ziyech's gone Chelsea, so he must be going Man United. But for me personally, I don't see why he'd leave Dortmund. I think that's the right path for him, because I don't think Man United or Chelsea are that attractive to him or an upgrade. And for Liverpool, is he worth the transfer? To get rid of one of the front three that they have? No. So would he go and sit on the bench?
I think Liverpool, the problem is in the Africa Cup of Nations, which wipes out 2 of the front 3.
Well, that's only for a month, though, isn't it?
Yeah, you're still gonna have your set front 3 like for the big games and the main games, and Sancho would want to be a key part
like
of that.
I think about it this year. Liverpool had a tough run of games from Boxing Day onwards, up until the end of January, where the last tough game I'd say was Wolves.
So what do you say to
Well,
Sancho?
I'd say Southampton.
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
first-
but
the
in
first
terms
half
of
of the
like
Southampton
looking
game.
back on, Wolves were pushed Liverpool the most, I think, this season out of
Yeah.
any team. And if they was without Salah and Mane for a month, or even though it's just a month, if they have a tough run of fixtures, they would struggle.
So do you say to Sancho, well, if these two aren't playing, then you can play? Because I don't.
Well,
Obviously, you wouldn't
he'd
accept
play
that.
without. It's a tough one, and personally, I still don't think he'd come to Liverpool purely because game time. When you've got a world-class front three like Liverpool do,
So,
although it's always good to have depth, I think we're not going to spend 100 million on a player to sit on the bench.
So yeah, I can't really see him going to the Premier League. He should stay at Dortmund unless someone like Barcelona comes in for him. I think that'd suit him well.
It's a shame for teams like Dortmund because the amount of talent they've had down the years, and they just get like.
At least it isn't Bayern
pickpocketers.
Munich this time.
Yeah,
that's true.
But the amount of talent they've had, like obviously Lewandowski, Hummels.
Dembele.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
Hummels and
to
to
Bayern,
Bayern, yeah,
Goetze.
to Goetze as well. Like that's just to name 3, and they've lost Dembele, Pulisic, all
Aubameyang.
these Aubameyang. They've lost all these talented players down the years, and obviously Sancho is another one of them. Only 19. I agree with Cam. I think staying at Dortmund would be the best option for him. But obviously, it doesn't sound like he will.
Yeah. I think he should stay at Dortmund as well. I don't see why you'd want to give it, especially with the attacking force that they have. You've seen the link up with Haaland. We spoke about that last week. I think right now to get the best out of his attacking abilities, I think Dortmund is one of the most exciting attacking teams in the world. I wouldn't see why you'd want to leave. So moving on to the main topic of the video, we've all prepared some notes on what's the best league in the world. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting discussion around this. So Cam, I will start with you. What have we got?
Well, for me, the best league in the world is the Bundesliga this season.
Wait, is that so?
So are we saying ever, or are we saying this
right now?
season?
Right
Right now, I'm saying the Bundesliga.
Okay.
Because what do you want? What would you measure it on? How exciting it is to watch, what it's like for fans, and I think Bundesliga tops both of them by quite a distance.
Phil, what do you think? We'll explain more about the Bundesliga in just a minute.
So, I'm gonna stick with the Premier League as the best league in the world, and although that might come as a bit of a
Is it because
surprise.
Liverpool are top?
No, it's not. It's not. I've got good reason to back my statement up. But yeah, that's my best league in the world.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with Cam. I've got the Bundesliga just because of as you said, probably the most exciting football league right now. Title race this season. You've got 4 or 5 teams probably
There's
that are viable.
4 points within the top 4.
Yeah, there's 8 points between first and sixth as well. Some of the best young talent in the world that are budding out there. English talent, as we've spoke about, Sancho. And it's impossible to guess, to predict who's going to win it as well. So Phil, why the Premier League?
Well, you said about excitement, and the Premier League seen the most goals across the top 5 leagues this year. 700 to be exact. 29 more. 29 more than Serie A, and 90 more than the Bundesliga.
Is that because the Bundesliga has less teams in it, so less games, and the Bundesliga had a winter break? because I feel as if I saw Bundesliga have the most goals per game with 3.24 goals a game.
Drop the mic.
No, I mean, it's all up for debate, and that's what we're doing. But, 700 goals scored, I think that is excitement. Everyone wants to see goals going in, and the Premier League's offered that this year, as it always does. And what you have to remember is there's 7 Premier League teams all in Europe, and they've made it into the knockout stages. If that's not a sign of strength, then what is?
Yeah.
Last season, there was 4 English teams in the final, both Champions League and Europa League. And for people to say, oh, what's the best league in the world? The strength of the Premier League teams, although fans haven't seen it this year, because everyone, I think from your perspective as a City fan, seeing your team so far behind Liverpool, you're obviously going to be a bit disinterested that you've said in the past, you've admitted to that this season. It's a bit of a write-off. And I think for a City fan, you've seen the team collect 198 points, which is unprecedented across 2 campaigns. I think when you see a team so far ahead of you, it's a bit of like a kick to the teeth. But I think the Premier League for me, just hands down, is the best league in the world.
Is just having digs at Man City and Lucas trying to win your debate?
Well,
no, it's just one part of my
I'd
debate.
say the Premier League hasn't been exciting since 15-16. Like, is in terms of a
Title
well,
race.
maybe last year.
1 point in it, going down to the final day.
But it was for 2 teams. That was the only only question.
More people viewed the Premier League last year than ever before.
Yeah, but that's viewing numbers. We're not on about viewing numbers.
Yeah, but the amount of people watching that expresses their interest in watching it.
But is that because the Premier League is sort of televised to more international audiences than any
But
other
again,
league?
isn't that a sign that it's the best league if it's
Alrighty.
televised? Because it's televised in
Or is that
188 countries worldwide.
Or is that based on past history and the success of the league?
And
think-
good marketing.
The amount of
And the amount of money that's been pumped
think
into
about
it.
the amount. Yeah, but that money has brought all these high quality, world class players into the Premier League. They've got some of the best players in the world, like De Bruyne, etc. A lot of people want to watch the Premier League, and a lot of people are interested in it.
I don't doubt that. I think the Premier League has the best pool of talent in the world. I don't think there's that many arguments against that.
So wouldn't that say it's the best league in the world?
So no, because it depends what we're measuring the best league on. Is it in terms of the talent that's there, or how exciting it is?
I think it is exciting. Like, between 4th and 9th, there's only 6 points.
But no one cares about 4th and 9th.
It's a race for Europe. Look at Sheffield United. They've come up from the Championship, and they're battling out for a Champions League spot. They're 2 points behind Chelsea.
Does that show the low in quality?
No,
How-
I think
how
it
the
shows
Premier League's
good
in
management.
quality?
It's a good management. And but it's competitive. Every team can beat one another. If you had teams like the top 6 who originally would beat everyone below them, I think that in a way is more boring. You can watch the game and you don't know who's going to win for the first time.
But I think that's diminished in the past 2 or 3 years with the dominance of Man City and Liverpool. When you think about in the past, even teams at the top, you saw, for example, Chelsea and Man United, when they used to dominate, they'd still get beat by teams sort of mid-table and
But not on the
fight for
scale that you
relegation.
do now.
But now it's rare. It's a rarity when you see
seeing-
even Liverpool dropping points.
Yeah, but I think this has been years in the making. Man City and Liverpool are the best run clubs in the world, in my opinion, in terms of how they run off the pitch and the players they've got on the pitch. I think the reason why they're so far ahead of everyone else is because the way they've planned it out in the last few years. This is their reward, what they get. All the other clubs are so far behind, but that makes it more competitive, more exciting to watch, because you can watch any game and you don't know who's going to win. I think that makes it exciting, because if you watch the game for, they're going to win 4-0 comfortably here, you don't get that anymore.
That's true. That is true. I don't know. I don't even think it's the second best league. In right now, the Premier League isn't the second best league in the world.
And further to add to my points I've made, they've got
extensive research.
They've got world-class managers. You've got Carlo Ancelotti, serial winner.
Carlo Ancelotti was first over Klopp and Guardiola.
But in terms of serial winners, he's won so many trophies in his career as a manager and a player. You've got Pep Guardiola, who, not in this current moment, but has been the best manager in the world for the last 3, 4, 5 years. You've got Jose Mourinho. You've got Jurgen Klopp, and then you've got top managers in Chris Wilder, etc.
Chris Wilder.
Obviously, I thought you could have backed up with your argument, maybe like, there used to be Pellegrini, a Premier League winner at West Ham, but Chris Wilder it is.
Chris Wilder. No one would have said that last season.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, you're getting teams that are coming up, and it's rare that they are able to compete. And we've seen Sheffield United come up, and they've exceeded everyone's expectations.
Like Wolves last year.
But Wolves had a Premier League squad in the Championship, didn't they?
Is that because Sheffield United's success because teams like Tottenham, Man United, even
Chelsea and Arsenal.
Chelsea and Arsenal have been so inconsistent over this year and probably last season?
No, I mean, you can always say about how they're inconsistent, which they are, but after that, you can't knock Sheffield United. They're well coached, a system that no one's ever came up with in the Premier League. It's down to themselves. It's not the luck of other teams not performing as well.
I think this is going slightly off topic onto Sheffield United, but in terms of the best league in the world, like
the Premier League, hands down.
Football just isn't anything without fans, and the best league in the world is the Bundesliga. The clubs treat the fans right, and the fan culture around the clubs. Like, you got Union Berlin there, who donate blood to raise money so they can keep their club alive, and you've got them.
But
you've
what
got
has
them
that got to do
working
with the best league?
But
because it's a fan culture. Football's
the
nothing
fans,
without fans.
Yeah, exactly. The fans make.
Yeah, fans are the lifeblood of football, but we're talking about the best league in the world. Like, when you think of football, you think of the players on it and what you see. And now we're talking about. I understand fans are important, but that doesn't make a league the best.
It's the whole package. But then
I'll agree with you both. It's got the best fan base, the Bundesliga, without a doubt.
Well, I'd argue another league, but we'll go into that a little bit after we discuss these two.
But there's no doubting how good the fans are in Germany. But in terms of the best league, for me, I mean, I've said enough about the Premier League. I'll let you two debate about the Bundesliga.
Where do you think the best young talent is
in the world?
What league?
You've got it in every league, though. You've got it.
Where is it best?
Obviously, I think it's the Bundesliga at the minute. I think they've got
top talent in Spain though as well.
Yeah, but I think at the minute the Bundesliga just keep churning out them youth players that they build the national team from that league every single year. I know the Premier League do, but it's just they have that constant flow. You lose the likes of Royce and Goetz, they get into the later stage of Schweinsteiger, and then you bring in your Julian Brandt, your Goretzka, and all them through the academies of not just your big teams from the bottom of the Bundesliga.
You probably got two of the best under 21 players in the Bundesliga.
Who are they?
Haaland and Sancho.
Sancho came from the Premier League.
Yeah, but he's been breeded and.
How many games did he play in the Premier League? Oh yeah, that's right.
Unless you want to argue that the Premier League 2 is the best league in the world. But yeah, Haaland and Sancho have come to Germany. I know Haaland's not been there for too long. But them two have shown that Dortmund, and obviously as we're talking about the Bundesliga, is a proving ground for young talent. Constantly you've seen over the years the talent that's come from Germany and into England and into Spain to become some of the world's best players. So I think, as we were talking about the Bundesliga, best young talent, most exciting football. I don't think that can really be right now. Right now, it can't be argued. You've seen the games that Dortmund have had. I know we spoke a lot about Dortmund on this podcast, but Dortmund constantly score 4 or 5 and also concede 3 or 4 in a game.
Leipzig the same.
Yeah, Leipzig the same. Bayern at the start of the season were a little bit shaky.
Is there a debate? All these goals that are going in, is that representing poor quality?
Well,
because is it? Because all these goals that are flying in, yeah, it's good to watch, but is that because the league's not as good quality as others?
Your argument was that the Premier League have produced quite a lot of goals this year. So is that low quality then as well? I think it's just
more games,
a mix of everything.
More games.
I think the Bundesliga just have just a unique style, and they start going back to the youth bit. They're poaching some of the best young players from the Premier League now. The young players want to go to Germany, like Dilrosun playing for Hertha Berlin at the minute. He
Lookman,
left.
Leipzig, Ampadu, Ampadu's not had that many minutes, but you're seeing Germany's now an outlet for young English talent where it wasn't really there before. I think the last English player to play in the Bundesliga before Jadon Sancho was like Owen Hargreaves at Bayern Munich. So it was a long time ago. so that outlet is there now. So I think I don't think the Premier League is better than
And
the
it's just
Bundesliga right now.
overall the league, how well it's run. Like, obviously, I think it's well known the whole of the Bundesliga needs to comply with the 50+1 rule, ownership rule, which guarantees, obviously, minus RP Leipzig, the most hated club in Germany, but obviously the fans have to have a majority vote in sharehold, and that just shows how well run the league is. You've got the excitement of the league, you've got the youth of the league, the excitement not just from goals but the title race. So that's my piece.
Yeah. So Phil, you're set on the Prem,
Have we managed to convince you?
Nope, still set on the Prem.
and we're set on the Bundesliga. Okay. Well, I've to obviously anyone else that's might be listening that doesn't agree with either the Prem or the Bundesliga, I've got two other leagues that might be considered the best league in the world from a certain section of fans. First of all, La Liga. Spoke about them briefly just then. Probably along with the Prem, the best standard of football in the world. Not the most exciting football, but the best standard in terms of the talent. Probably the best technical players in the world as
Obviously, you've had Barcelona and Real Madrid dominate Europe over the past decade.
well. Yeah. Title race is interesting at the minute too. Between Barca and Real, as you just said, and it's the home of Lionel Messi. So, I mean that gives it prestige.
Who do you think will win the league this year out of them two?
Real. Real, I just think they're so. I'm more worried now about City turning them over in the Champions League, over two legs especially, because they're just so. The amount of talent that they've got, it's even on loan, it's a joke. It is really. You've probably got 2 or 3 players for each position. I think that depth, going into the Champions League and obviously playing out in La Liga as well. I think they might have a bit too much for Barca, who are going through their own maybe not a rebuild, but kind of like.
It's all a bit of a mess at Barca.
Yeah, well, there was the news about Messi being unhappy with Abidal. I think Abidal's a sporting director. His comments about wanting Valverde to leave, and Messi took up with that. Yeah, I think Real. I think they might have too much for Barca. What do you think, Phil?
It's really tough to call because in this current moment, I think Real Madrid are the better team. I mean, Courtois is in good form. He won Player of the Month the other day. I think if Real Madrid keep the way they are, they'll win the league.
Yeah, obviously people thought Real Madrid were in a mess of their own at the start of the season, but obviously Courtois massively changed around his fortunes there. I think Real Madrid will go on to win it. Yeah.
I know it's not talking about the best league in the world, but what do you think? What do you think's Real Madrid's best starting 11? Because I've just mentioned about the depth that they've had. What do you think is their best starting team?
Would you choose Mendy over Marcelo?
Ooh.
Obviously, Mendy has been over Marcelo in recent weeks, hasn't he?
Right now, yeah, I'd probably have Mendy.
I think I looked at the starting 11 on the weekend, and 6 of the starting 11 were the one with the main core of the Champions League, 3 seasons in a row winners. But it's just the left side that had been changed. Obviously, without Ronaldo, Marcelo, I think Toni Kroos wasn't starting when I checked, and then obviously Courtois over Keylor Navas. I think also another big point is Toni Kroos and Modric. Do you play them both? Because at the minute, no.
Valverde
Has to start, I think.
Valverde. Kroos and Modric, there's not enough legs there anymore.
Yeah.
His age is kind of taking the toll.
Casemiro, Valverde, and would you say one of them?
Kroos or Modric? Oh, that's so hard.
Modric is in his best goal scoring season of his life.
That's not difficult.
It depends what you want out of your midfielders, doesn't it?
It depends on the opposition you're up against.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard.
I think with Casemiro and they're both good at passing, though, isn't it? You can't argue.
Let's say
can't take Casemiro out.
when they're taking on Man City in a couple of weeks' time, who do Real Madrid play in that midfield to contend against you likes of De Bruyne, etc.
Casemiro, Valverde, and
Cruz.
I think
Modric.
they'd play Modric.
Modric for City. I think they're playing Modric. Why would you think, Phil?
Potentially, I think. Is the first leg at home or away? For
First
Real
leg
Madrid.
is, at Bernabeu, I think.
Yeah, so I think I'd choose Kroos over Modric.
Would you?
I would, but I think Real Madrid would choose Modric, but I prefer Toni Kroos myself.
I think I do prefer Toni Kroos. So
I mean, it's a good dilemma to have because although
Yeah.
they're raging, like they're still two world-class players.
Yeah. I think I'd have Valverde, Casemiro, and
It has to be Toni Kroos.
Kroos,
then, so,
yeah. Toni Kroos.
We agree on something at last.
So the right wing, the left wing, and striker, obviously. Luka Jovic was brought in this year. And we've gone off on a massive tangent here. We said we wouldn't do this. Should just wrap this up. Luka Jovic was brought in this season from Frankfurt. Like we said, another young talent coming out of the Bundesliga to Spain and England. Would you have Benzema or Jovic?
Benzema.
I'd say Benzema as well. He's as everyone's expecting him to, because obviously he was just a feeder for Ronaldo when he was there, but Benzema's really stepped up since
He's
Ronaldo's left.
been the leader on the pitch this year
Yeah.
for Real Madrid.
Right wing and left wing, I'm guessing you'd have a fully fit Eden Hazard on the left.
Yep, and if there's a fully fit Gareth Bale, I'd have him on the right. A fully fit one, but we don't get that often. So
yeah, that's true. No Isco?
No, I'm not a massive fan of him on the wing. I'm not. Obviously, it depends how you play, but I prefer dynamic wingers, whereas I wouldn't mind Isco dropping instead of Modric in the centre mid, to be honest.
That's another class player that we forgot about as well.
It's
Asensio.
testament to the amount of depth
Yeah.
that Real Madrid have. Vinicius Junior,
Rodrigo.
yeah.
I prefer Rodrigo over Vinicius. I think he is a bit
I
better.
think he's a better player
Yeah.
in this current moment. And they signed another Brazilian player, haven't they?
Renier.
Yeah.
Is that the one
Ryan-
from
Ryan,
Flamengo?
Flamengo, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that they've got a good vision, but that I can say for another week on a podcast to discuss.
Yeah, they've just quickly. I think they've changed their approach from sort of big stars, obviously, barring the purchase of Hazard in the summer. I mean, they've changed the dynamic from.
But they're still spending a lot of money on these players.
They're investing it
40
though
million,
in
isn't it?
investing it on young talent, and it will prove, my guess, to be a success, because you've seen the quality of Rodrigo and Vinicius Junior, and they're 18, 19. Think about how good they're gonna be when they turn 24, 25.
Obviously Kubo, who's out on loan as well.
At Mallorca. Odegaard.
Yeah.
Ceballos.
They've got so many players out on loan as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Lastly, then, just to
Back onto the leagues.
finish off, just get back on track. The Championship as the best league in the world. I think the best supported league in the world in terms of its size. Think about in the second division. You just frowned at me, Phil, for some reason.
The best supported.
In terms of its size. Think about the second division in England.
I love the Championship. I think it's a great league, but when you go and see the games, they're half full, the grounds.
What about Ellen Road? Like full every week.
But that's half
30,000 people. 30,000 people.
Look at some
in
of
the
the games
Championship.
on a Saturday afternoon. There's a lot that is not there.
Notts Forest sell out most weeks. 30.
No, there's a few
31.
clubs that do, but there's a lot that don't.
It's pain in my arse today, Phil. Impossible.
Excuse the language.
Impossible to predict. As always, everyone beats everyone.
But I said that about the Premier League.
Yeah,
that
but
winner.
not everyone beats everyone, because no one beats Liverpool.
But everyone else has lost against different teams this season.
Yeah, but
I think constantly there's always 4 or 5 teams always in the race for automatic promotion. Then obviously with the playoffs involved as well, you've got more or less the whole of the top half of the league are always involved.
There's
in
always
playoff
drama
fight.
in the playoffs. Like last year, Leeds
Falling
and Derby.
apart, yeah.
yeah, you've got here the fight for automatic promotion. West Brom are 6 points clear now. Leeds 56, Fulham 56, Brentford 54, Forest 54, Preston 53, Bristol City 53, Cardiff 49. So I think that just shows there's 6-7 teams.
It'd be interesting if Brentford came up, because they don't have an academy, do they?
Do we not?
No.
They're the
you're
only
right.
club I think in the football pyramid who don't. Like in the Championship especially, they've got just a B team.
Oh, didn't know that.
But yeah, I
But
think
they bring through loads of young
Yeah.
talent though. Still, probably one of the best in England at bringing. That's a little rogue shout. At bringing young talent in. What were you going to say, Cam? Sorry if I interrupted you.
now obviously I think, considering it's the second division, I think that's what adds to it. Because obviously, if you look in every other country, there just isn't that pyramid as such. And for this to be the second division, and so supported, and as well the money involved for the second division. Obviously, what is it? The playoff finals and biggest.
I don't know if it is anymore, but it was like the most expensive
Yeah,
game in
120 million. It's worth to win that game. So
Yeah, and you saw with what Villa did with that last year when they won the league. They splashed out what like you said, 120, 130 million. So yeah, I think in terms of its size and in terms of what it actually is as a second division,
yeah,
I think it's one of the most exciting leagues to watch and to try and predict.
Obviously, you look in that league and you've got Leeds and Nottingham Forest and Villa last year, was it?
Mm-hmm.
They've all won European Cups. They've
Yeah,
all been fighting in Europe,
you
and
forget that.
not even that long ago, really. It's not like you're going back to the early 1900s. It's only 1980s, and for Leeds, it is right at the beginning of the millennium.
You think about even Blackburn, who've won the Premier League. It's a division that holds a lot of like historically brilliant teams. Obviously, you said with Leeds, Forest, Birmingham are in there, Villa were in there, Blackburn,
Wigan only won the FA Cup.
Wigan,
yeah, a few years ago.
nearly a decade ago against us.
Yeah,
It's
sorry
not
to
a
bring
very-
that one up. Yeah.
Not a very good day, but yeah, I think in terms of what it is, I think it's got to be up there. Well, for us English people, we'll let Phil in. He's just gone to the loo. For us English people, it's one of the best in the world. All right, back on track. Okay, right. Moving on from the best league in the world. So we've concluded that. So
That's the Bundesliga one.
Bundesliga 1, 2-1. Are we agreed on that, Phil?
No.
No. All right then. Well,
There's always one.
as always, let us know what you think the best league is in the world. Obviously, we want to try and encourage a discussion. So moving on to the preview for both the Champions League and the Premier League. We'll start with the Champions League. 4 fixtures for the coming week: 2 Tuesday, 2 Wednesday. We'll start with the 2 Tuesday games, probably the 2 exciting of the bunch. We've got Atletico versus Liverpool and Dortmund v PSG. Atletico v Liverpool. Start with then. How will Simeone set up against Liverpool, do you think, Phil?
Very defensive.
Mhm.
They've got the best defensive record in La Liga this year, which is no surprise. They have for the last few years. But I think it'll be an interesting tie, just due to Atletico Madrid. They've not had the best of seasons for their standard. I think they've only scored 23 goals in the league, which is averaging 1 a game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they're so good defensively, and they don't get broke down by many teams.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be an interesting one to see how Liverpool do cope.
Do you think, as a Liverpool fan, would you take a point out? Not a point, sorry, a draw out of this?
Definitely,
Take it back to Anfield?
yeah, because at Anfield I'd back Liverpool to beat anybody, especially in the Champions League. Everyone knows what they're like. And off the success of last year, I think I'd take a point away in Spain against a good defensive outfit.
Mm-hmm. How do you think Simeone will set up, Cam?
Obviously, it's going about how good they are defensively, but they just haven't been on top form this season, and I can't see anything other than Liverpool scoring against them. And I can't. And obviously, as Phil mentioned, they haven't been scoring much themselves. So obviously, he will set up defensively. That's his go-to. But yeah, I can just see Liverpool winning it overall.
Both teams have got the best defence records in either league as well. So obviously, an Atletico Madrid that doesn't score against the Liverpool teams conceded 15 in the league this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the Champions League they have conceded a bit more in the group stages. I think maybe 8 in 6 games. But for me, I think it'll be a draw the first leg.
So if Atletico were to, well, obviously they want to try and win. What do you think that their best bet is of actually going on and winning the tie rather than just getting a 0-0 draw?
I can't see them winning the tie. I think if they was in a stronger position where they was performing better and scoring more goals, I'd fancy them to do better. But you can't look past this Liverpool team at the minute. I think they'll just have too much for them over the 2 legs.
Well, although I think it seems easier this season to go and attack Liverpool than other seasons, but you haven't dropped any points really,
They've only conceded. Liverpool have only conceded once in the league in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Although I agree, like they have, when you watch them, they seem to be cut open, and people getting behind them quite a bit. But I think they don't concede that many, and whether that's due to Alisson or Van Dijk and Gomez.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things really, because I think I read that the amount of big chances Liverpool are giving away, you'd expect them to concede a lot more, but they haven't.
So, as I said, if Atletico were to win, what do you think that their best shot is of actually winning? So, how do you think that they should set up if they wanted to get a win rather than to just
counter, just defend?
Counter.
We know how good they are at defending, so just stick to what they're good at, and then hope. In their case, hope that one of the strikers, whoever's playing, can just grab a goal. But I think it's a big ask, a huge ask.
Do you think that battle between Morata and Van Dijk? Do you think Morata has any chance of coming up?
Not particularly, because not many strikers do against Van Dijk. But you never know. He might have an unbelievable day at the office and grab a few goals.
Produced in the Champions League before, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Semi-finals and finals.
That is true, yeah.
He is a good talent, Morata. He's been a good player for years, but whether he's got that much against the best defender in the world, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So your prediction for that game then?
1-1 I've gone for
the home leg. 1-1. What do you think, Al?
I think it'll be 2-1 Liverpool.
And you, Lucas?
There's not going to be many goals, is there? Either 0-0 or 1-0 Liverpool. I can't see Atletico winning unless they play a 4-4-2 and literally pin Robertson and Alexander-Arnold.
It's a big ask, isn't it?
On the halfway line, because that's what you're going to have to do. Because
are you
Trent,
playing the centre mids out wide like Atletico sometimes do?
Played Saul out wide and Koke on the right, and then probably play Partey and Herrera in midfield. Because that's the.
It is a bit of an intriguing tie because it's hard to call which way it'll go. Like you said, I don't think there'll be many goals in it, so it's just going to be it's going to be down to tactics, I think, of who comes on.
And the thing is with Liverpool as well, even if you do pin Robertson and Alexander-Arnold back, which seems to be the kind of the base of their attack, you still got Mane, Salah. Will Mane be fit? Actually?
Yeah. He's back in training. He'll be fit for Atletico.
Yeah, you still got Mane, Firmino, Salah to deal with, and even if they're having a bad day, you can normally rely on Wijnaldum or Henderson or even Oxlade-Chamberlain. It depends who you want to play. To kind of come up with some.
They always just seem to find a way to win, especially this season, which fills me as a Liverpool fan with hope that however they set up, that they'll find a way to.
Even when you played bad, Sheffield United didn't. The game at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United game, wasn't particularly good, but you've managed to find a way, although be it a Dean Henderson mistake. Both the Wolves games, I didn't think you played particularly well.
There's been quite a few games where they haven't played brilliant, but they've obviously still come out with a win. But I just it's.
I think you've been quite lucky with the obviously some of the finishing against you. I don't know why the strikers seem to fall apart. That's what I feel when I watch it.
Do you think it's a mental thing of when you get the chances?
When it's at Anfield, definitely, yeah.
But even away from home,
when I was watching
look at the Tottenham
Watford
game
as well against you.
They missed a few chances.
They missed loads. Like they couldn't kick the ball.
But like you look at the Tottenham game, sticks out for me. Lo Celso with what looks like a certain goal.
Well, there was a few in the City game as well with Sterling and Aguero that look kind of like you're bound to score, but somehow they haven't.
Angelino hit the post as well.
I think it's a mental sort of challenge to even.
I think it is
step up
home
to
or
the
away. I
final.
think because although they do get chances, they just don't seem to go in.
Mhm.
But I think Alisson, credit to him, like he's been brilliant this
Yeah,
season.
he really has. So yeah, I think if Atletico were to win, they've got to play 4-4-2, and I think they've got to be brave as well. They've got to go at Liverpool, especially if they're playing on the counter attack. They've got to be
Especially at
got to
home.
be fast. Yeah. So we'll move on to Tuesday's second game. Probably the highlight of the week, I'd say. Dortmund v PSG.
Probably the most exciting game on paper.
Yeah, certainly. Cam, who has the best attack, PSG or Dortmund?
Ooh.
Because for me, it's
I-
dead level.
Yeah, that's a good one, that, because obviously we spoke about Dortmund earlier. With they're really good in the attack, but they
Mhm.
just concede loads, and I think that might be where PSG go ahead in this game, like are favourites for this tie. But I don't know. I think you've got to say PSG have the better attack. Although on paper, I think
You have to sort of
As a
factor in the league they play in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, their attack is brilliant, but I think they play in a league that isn't on the same quality as Bundesliga.
no, but obviously when you look at Neymar, Mbappe,
Mm.
I think
Cavani,
Neymar might
Icardi.
be.
Icardi's starting,
Neymar's
isn't
a doubt.
Yeah.
For the home leg, I think. But yeah, I am.
But as a package, Dortmund's attack looks just really strong together, obviously with Haaland added on. But I think Julian Brandt's a doubt as well for Borussia
he?
Dortmund. Yeah.
Ooh. Phil, how do you think the game will play out? The home
Well,
leg?
they've
At Dortmund.
combined, either team has scored 175 goals this season. So I think you're guaranteed
Jeez.
goals
Yeah.
against two teams that are quite vulnerable at the back. But I think, for me, Dortmund are the favourites in this one.
Did you think?
They've
Ooh.
not lost a home game all season in any competition.
Oh, do you mean just for this individual game?
For
or-
this individual tie, over the two legs, I think maybe PSG. But they haven't lost a home game all season, and out of 3 defeats to PSG, 2 of them have come on the road this season. So I think if Dortmund are in good form, which they always seem to be going forward, I think they could grab a win at home.
Yeah, I think at home, you saw in the Barcelona game, probably when they played them in the group stage, I think they probably deserved to win. And as you said, the home games that they have played this season, they've not lost, and they scored plenty of goals. I think maybe in the home leg they might have perhaps a little bit too much for PSG to cope with, especially with the yellow wall as well and that atmosphere of Signal Iduna Park. So I think they might edge it, but yeah, over two legs. Oh, actually, I don't know. It's a tough one to call. Cam, what do you think? Prediction?
I think for
the home
this
leg?
for this individual game, I'm going to give 2-2 while it's at Dortmund. But in the overall tie, I think PSG will just edge it.
What
maybe.
about you, Phil? What do you think? Prediction?
I've gone for a prediction 3-2 to Dortmund.
Mhm.
I think you're guaranteed goals, and like I said about the home start, I think they will win the first leg. Whether they can do that in the second is a bigger ask. What do you think?
3-1 Dortmund. 3-1 Dortmund, and I think PSG. It might go to extra. Is there extra time in the Champions League?
If they're level on away goals
Yeah.
and everything, then yeah.
I think Dortmund might edge it actually.
Mm.
I think PSG just might bottle it again, which is funny because they just
The amount
they
of
always
money they've
pip,
spent.
they're always pipped at the start of the season to win it, but they never really get any further than the quarters.
No.
So yeah, I'd have that. So Wednesday's games, Atalanta versus Valencia and Spurs versus Leipzig. We'll start off with Atalanta versus Valencia. Some might consider this one sort of the dead game of the round, but when you look at both the teams, especially Atalanta, you think there's going to be a lot of goals in this game, like the Dortmund PSG one. Phil, how do you think this one will play out at Atalanta?
I think due to the fact it's at Atalanta, they're the favourites for me in this tie. They've scored 70 goals in all competitions this season, so they've scored plenty. It's not been a problem going forward. Recently, they've had a couple of huge wins, 7-0 and 5-0 in the league. And they average 14 shots in the Champions League in the group stages per game. So I think for me, Valencia might struggle away from home. But I think you have to factor in at the same time that this is Atalanta's their first campaign in the Champions League.
Yep.
I think Valencia, they have a bit more experience about them, which could play a part. But yeah, I think Atalanta, the favourites.
Mm-hmm. So Atalanta have scored 61 in the league this season, 19 in the last 6, 17 more than Juve. Will Valencia be able to keep them out, Cam?
No. To put it simply, I think Atalanta are the favourites for this one. Will Atalanta, they'll be playing San Siro, will they again?
I think it's still at San Siro, yeah.
Yeah. Slight disadvantage for them, unless they pack it out, but I can't imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Atalanta will just edge this one. Obviously, like you said, it'll be overlooked compared to the rest of the ties. And I think it might be it's just a very underrated game overall.
Well, Valencia are not in great form going into this one. They've lost 3 of the last 6. They've only scored 5. And they've scored 33 in 23 La Liga games this season. But they don't concede many either, to be fair. So I think Atalanta might blow them away in the first leg, and then they might sit back. Well, not sit back, but might not win by as big a margin in the second one. I think
away from home, they've lost 9 games all season, 7 on the road. In the process, they've conceded 20 goals, only scored 7. So I think for me, there's no look. I think it has to be a Atalanta victory. Although, like you said, the San Siro, because they're not at home, it could play
I think they only fill like half of it as well.
So it might be a bit. I mean, they must be used to it now. They played in the group stages this year, so they'll be used to playing there. But it is a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Playing in a stadium that's not yours.
Yeah. So prediction for that then, Cam. What do you think?
I'll go for 3-1 Atalanta.
Phil?
I've gone for the same scoreline, 3-1 to Atalanta.
Hat trick. 3-1 Atalanta.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully
Yeah.
that comes through, unlike our prediction for the Bayern Leipzig game.
We're just a bit off on that one.
Yeah, just a little bit
The
off.
goal fest of 0-0.
Yes. Speaking of Leipzig, Spurs v Leipzig on Wednesday as well. A very interesting tie. How do you think Mourinho will approach this game at home, Phil? What do you think?
It's a tough game for Tottenham because Leipzig, obviously, they're doing well this year in the Bundesliga, second in the league. But in the group stages, Tottenham scored 18 goals. So scoring weren't a problem for them. I think I'm more worried about the defence.
Yeah.
You know, they've got Leipzig have got Werner, Forsberg might be playing, Sabitzer, Olmo. You know, they've got good attacking talent. It's just whether Tottenham can keep them out. They haven't kept many clean sheets since Mourinho has been in charge. I think they might have only kept 2. So for me, it's an intriguing game because I can't call it. I think Tottenham just have had a disappointing campaign, in my opinion, and this could be if they could do well in the Champions League, it would be a big boost for them. But what do you two think about this game?
I don't know, because you got to factor in Spurs' experience in the Champions League. You think about how resolute they were in that campaign last season. Especially in the City and the Ajax games, coming from behind.
Are they the same team this season now? Obviously no Harry Kane.
Well, there were no Harry Kane in the City game or the Ajax game either last season.
Oh yeah, he was injured until the final, weren't he?
Yeah, he got injured in the first leg of the City game, and he came back for the final. I don't know. I fancy Leipzig in this one just because based on form. And Spurs leak a lot of goals, and they've not really been scoring them as of late. Son's been a bit off. Obviously, they've got Bergwijn that's come in as well. I think Leipzig's attack might be a little bit too much for Spurs to cope with. But Cam, what do you think?
I think this tie is one of the most I'm intrigued about, to be honest. I'm just that unsure over them, both teams. Sometimes they'll score loads and sometimes they won't and all that. But I don't know how. I was going to say, well, Mourinho's kind of game, like wait until the Champions League knockouts. But then again, I'm a Man United fan. We lost to Sevilla, so.
I remember that game.
Yeah, that's one of my worst.
I went to it actually.
Well,
Yeah.
Lucky you. But I think this Mourinho's just going to build his team around the Champions League this season. It's going to be his main priority and show that he is still the calibre of manager that we expect. But I think I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a 1-1.
Over 2 legs, what do you think?
Like I said, I'm
It's
unsure.
tough to call, isn't it?
I'll go for Spurs, luckily. They'll somehow, luckily, scrape through.
Phil,
I've gone
over the home leg and over 2 legs.
I've gone at the first leg, Tottenham 1, Leipzig 2.
Mm-hmm.
But away from home, I think Tottenham might steal it. I think Mourinho's experience will come through.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that, actually. I think I had in my head Spurs 1, Leipzig 2. But I think Spurs are, in Europe, as they showed last season, they're a different beast away from home. So, I don't know. I think Spurs' experience might just carry them through.
Yeah, like something like going through on away goals or just something like that.
Yeah. So, are we all saying Spurs to go through?
Well, over the 2 legs.
Over
but
2 legs.
Yeah, but in the first leg, I think Leipzig will win.
Cam, you with that?
Spurs to go through and 1-1 in the first leg, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving on from the Champions League, we'll be doing the preview for the other 4 games next week. The Prem preview, we'll only talk about 2 games because there's only 2 games that I'm particularly interested in.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are a bit. Wolves versus Leicester Friday night, Valentine's Day, and Chelsea v Man United on Monday night. We'll start with Wolves v Leicester. What do you think will be the outcome of that one, Phil?
I can see it being a draw. It was first game of the season, weren't it?
Yeah, I think the all the games this weekend and last weekend are a repeat from the start of the season.
I think both teams on a day could win the game, but Leicester's form as of late hasn't been that impressive. I think Wolves. Is it Wolves?
It's Molineux.
I think it's a tough one to call because both teams could be content with a draw.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Leicester, they could still finish second. I doubt it. But yeah, what do you two think?
Well, I think it's obviously a really interesting game again, but I think Leicester haven't been quite on form as
they've dropped off a little bit since.
It's ever since he lost
weeks.
against Man City. I think they've just not been able to get that form back.
Like unless I was getting too relaxed and thinking, well, surely the Champions League is ours. I don't think that group of players, especially Rodgers as manager, but I've been impressed with Wolves recently. I thought they'd drop off as well, but so I'm going to go for a Wolves 2-1 in this game.
Yeah, I think 2-1 as well. I think Wolves are so hard to beat. Like, I mean, obviously as a City fan, we've seen this season, even when we did go 2-0 up, they're never out of it. I think they arguably they play better when they're behind.
Yeah, they've
from
got the most points from losing positions in the Premier League this season. So I think.
I think part of it's down to for Leicester, obviously the age and the winter break all catching up on Jamie Vardy quite a bit, and obviously he is their go-to man.
He hasn't scored many goals recently.
No,
obviously I think he's still top scorer.
He is. He's got 17, but he hasn't scored that many goals in recent weeks.
So we're prediction then, Phil. Wolves v Leicester.
I think I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolves as well.
Yeah. What
I
about
think
you?
we might agree again. I just think Wolves are really hard to beat, and they have so many components in attack that I think maybe Leicester away from home might not be able to cope with. This fixture last season was 4-3. I think Jota scored a hat trick. So there is, probably there's scope for a lot of goals in this game. But I think with how Wolves are set up now, 2-1.
Well, all right, I'll change to 1-0 Wolves then.
1-0.
Yeah.
All right then. So finally, to conclude the podcast, Chelsea versus Man United.
We'll start with Cam. What's your prediction as a United fan?
I don't know. I think obviously, although a goal is banned from Carrington, I think he still might be in the squad. Don't know how they work that one out. Ban him from the training ground, but then
He's banned from the training ground?
Apparently, yeah, we've banned him from the training ground to prevent
worries of coronavirus in there still.
Yeah. So, but we'll go and put him against Chelsea's defence anyway. Might get a bit of space in the box. But I don't think he'll start, obviously. I know Scott McTominay's back.
That's a big
Yeah,
it's been a big miss, hasn't
I
it?
know Pogba's not back for another couple of weeks, but I think it's a really tight game, really unsure, because obviously we've beaten Chelsea twice this season already.
4-0 and 2-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Solskjaer has a knack of beating Chelsea. I think he's beaten twice again.
We beat them
in his-
last season in the FA Cup.
Yeah, FA Cup and League, yeah. So, but at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea haven't been too good there. I'm going to go for a 1-1.
What would you think, Phil? That's very safe, by the way, Cam. Not
Yeah,
even
sitting on the
backing into
fence this one.
what you thinking?
Yeah, again, it's a tough fixture to predict, because if you went off previous fixtures, you'd be like, oh, it's a United win, but you don't know which United you're going to get. But in big games you perform this season, I'm going to go over 1-0 Man United victory.
2-0 Man United.
Ooh.
United have been very good against traditional top 6 teams this season. Chelsea haven't been very good at home, and they've not really been able to cope with sort of the individual talent of big 6 teams. You've seen that we've struggled with Liverpool, with City, with Leicester. I think Man United, I don't know, it's weird because Solskjaer, I think we can all agree, isn't a particularly great manager. You just frowned at me.
Oh
I
no,
don't think- I
mate.
don't
Listen,
I don't think he's
I don't know
great.
if you can call him a manager. That's what I was frowning at.
I don't think he's a great manager, but he has this knack of kind of when it comes to big teams and big games, he kind of he sets his team out to perform. Even
It's weird how they can perform well against like Man City this season. Obviously held Liverpool to a draw at Old Trafford. It's weird how they can perform in these sort of games where you'd think they might struggle, but then against lesser opposition they struggle.
yeah,
I think part of it though, our good performances against Chelsea under Solskjaer have all come through Rashford,
Mhm.
and obviously he's out. So I don't know how we'll set up really, and Chelsea aren't the same attacking team. I think Lampard will learn from his mistakes against Solskjaer, and if they sit more defensively, then we'll struggle
Yeah.
to break them down again.
I think Chelsea. I know it's not really in line with what Lampard wants to do at Chelsea, but I think he should just sit off and let
Yeah.
United have the ball, because you've seen you need a. Are you gonna? Nice one, Phil. Yep. So we'll just carry this one on really quick. I've lost my trail of thought. Yeah, I think it's not
Just sitting back in it.
Sitting back is in line with.
Well, look, Man United have struggled against the low blocks, haven't they? And I don't really know why the big 6 haven't done it. Considering they watch
yeah.
all the games and you see, oh, that's how other teams struggle and all that. And you look at Man United and go, well, what have they struggled against? Low blocks. And every time they come try and attack us, and it suits us perfectly.
I think there's a pattern with obviously the bigger teams that they have more of the ball. Obviously Liverpool,
Yeah.
City, Leicester, Spurs. They want more of the ball, and I think obviously
Is
how
it a bit of
United have countered.
Pride? Do the big teams need to swallow a bit of their pride and just go on, let Fred have the ball?
Maybe abandon what works. Maybe attack it. Not
I know you
necessarily
see
attack
Manchester United score conceding a lot of goals, and they're probably like, "Oh, we can get at this and embarrass them," as Man City did in the first leg.
in the first half of the first leg.
Oh yeah,
of
but
the
they
League
didn't
Cup.
really have much to play for in the second half.
No,
But
no.
they punished us, and I was scared it was going to be really embarrassing. But yeah, I do think it'll be a draw though, because both teams aren't really on form.
Yeah, I'm gonna go United 1-0 and Phil, who's abandoned us for just a second, as
He said a 1-0 Man United, didn't
1-0 Man United. So
he? Yeah.
we'll wrap up the podcast with just us two, because Phil's gone to throw up. So if
It was
you
a
did
good night out.
Yeah, a big night out. So if you did enjoy the podcast, as always, make sure you like and subscribe. Let us know anything you want us to talk about in the comments, and follow our Instagram page at the 451 podcast. So thank you for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.